What's up, Facebook Fortnite group? Velo here, back again with another educational video, I guess you could say. Today we're talking about building and editing on PC. Okay, and these concepts can be used on different platforms, I'm sure, but I play on PC. That is what I have firsthand knowledge on. So this is going to be geared more towards the PC player. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we do anything, I want to go into our settings. And if you click right here on your input, you can scroll down to your building options, and then you can see all of these building options here. We'll get into a few of those in just a moment, but the main thing I want you to point out first, since we're talking about the basics, are the four different building structures that we have. One is the wall, one is the floor, the stairs, and the roof. I call the stairs a ramp, and I call the roof a cone. So if you hear me saying ramp or cone, that's what that signifies. Yeah, so you guys can see what I have them bound to here. We'll discuss that in just a moment. To place a building, for me, it's just the left click button. I'm pretty sure that's the default option. You can select what bind you want to repair or upgrade. I don't use this a lot, but occasionally it comes in handy. To rotate different building materials, so if you want to spin something around, you can do that with, I just use the R. I think that also might be the default. Change your building material. This is my right click button. I think it's the default. So if you want to select between the three different building materials that we have, which are wood, brick, and steel or metal, that's how you would do that. To edit, in this case, I have two different options. I have my G key, which is what I use to pull up the edit menu, or I have mouse wheel down. This is a little bit more advanced when we're talking about reset edits or resetting. With the mouse wheel, I can show you guys a little bit about that if you want to know more about that as well. Crouch while editing, that's just whatever your crouch button is. I know everyone wonders, why the hell do I use shift for crouch? It's what I've been doing forever since I played Counter-Strike, and that's just what it is. So get used to it. Select building edit. Again, this is going to be your default, your left mouse button. And now I do use this setting, which is called, if we go down here into controller options, a confirm edit on release. I now have that turned on. This is a new feature in chapter 2, which allows us to edit with one less step. We do no longer have to confirm the edit by hitting our G key again, or your building edit key again. Okay, so you can see those. Let's go ahead and hop into the game. So for me, if I wanted to put a floor down, I'm just going to slide my finger down to the Z button. You can see down here in the bottom right, my Z is my floor, my C key is my ramp, my V key is my roof or a cone, which I call it, and my 4 button, which is just a thumb button on my mouse, is my wall. Okay, so I can click any of these, and that's how I'm going to pull up that option, and then I'm going to place it with my left click. You guys probably know this much, but you have the floor, you have your ramp, you have your cone, and you have, which one didn't I do? Your wall. Okay, so these are the 4 different building structures. You also have different materials. By hitting your right click button, you can cycle through those. So I don't need to show you guys every single one of those. You guys get the idea. You can also rotate, like it was talking about. I use this occasionally, very rare, but say I pull up my ramp and I hit my R key right now, I can rotate that around. So sometimes if you are up really high and you need to come down and you don't want to take fall damage, a less advanced route, I guess you could say, is by spinning this ramp around and walking down like this. Okay, I never do that anymore now that I can do the waterfall builds, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, all right. So let's talk really quickly about binds. Where should you have your binds? What should you use for your bind keys? It doesn't really, it does matter. I don't want to say it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be what I use. Okay. I've fallen on something that I prefer. Some people say you should have all your build keys on your mouse so it's not impacting your strafing while you're moving around, like your Z and D key. For me, it needs to be something that you can reach with ease, something that you don't have to reposition your hand and that you can get to really quickly. My other rule is whatever you choose, stick with it. Okay, use it for a while because it's going to take a little bit before you get used to that movement. It's not something that you're going to, like, day one just feel amazing with these binds. Okay, it's going to take time, it's going to take practice, and you're going to have to come into creative or some different edit courses and things every single day, or at least frequently enough that you get this down to the point where you're memorizing it and it just becomes second nature. Without going too crazy with all of the edits, there's a number of different edits that you guys can do. I just want to go over the basics on how to edit. Okay, so you can see my key that is popped up right now because you saw my bind. My G key pulls up my edit option, right? So now in this case, I can click on whatever boxes I want to remove and they will turn gray. So if I click on the middle one and I let go, we got a window in the middle. It just removes that square. Okay, I just reset that using my scroll wheel because I have the scroll wheel reset option. If I did not have that, you would have to hit, you can't click here. You'd have to actually click on the structure. I'd have to hit G and then my reset button, which would used to be my right click option, and then I'd have to hit confirm to do that. Okay, you can see how much easier it is when I can just spin my mouse wheel down. Okay, so that is what the mouse wheel reset is. That's why you've seen people doing these really fast resets. So there's a few different ways to do that. You guys can look into it. But the most common edits that you're going to do, you're going to see me do, are going to be corner edits like this when I'm trying to run through a wall. Sometimes I'll do the bottom 4 like that, which is these 4. Okay. And then you have windows. This is usually associated with it's like some type of box fighting where you're shooting through the window. And there's a few different combinations we can use with that. You can put windows on both sides. You can do top corner edits. You can shorten the wall by taking the top row off or the top 2 rows off for a really short wall. You can remove these 2 sides. For whatever reason, this is not an edit. I don't know why. It's not. But those are the basic edits with that. I'm sure there's a few that I'm missing, like this one, the archway. With the ramp, with the cone, you can edit it into a ramp. You can edit just one corner up. All right. For that, you can also edit 3 and get like this inverted pyramid. You can edit 2 on opposite corners to get like this Dorito looking thing. There's a few different things and uses for that. The stairs are probably the most complicated in that if you're on a staircase and you want to rotate it. Let's go ahead and just look at the edit options here. We have 8 boxes with 2 arrows. The arrows signify the direction that the ramp is heading. That means this side is the low side, this side is the high side, right? So if I just let that go, you guys can see low side of the ramp, high side of the ramp. Okay, if I spin that around, if I clicking over on this box right here and dragging it over here, watch the arrows, they spin around as well. Okay. Drag it over like that, drag it back like that. And this is just doing a 180 edit. So if I click on that one, it's going to be the low side. Whatever side you start on is going to be the low side. So if I click here and drag over, this side's going to be the low side. If I want to edit a single staircase and I click on this box and drag it up, so those 3 boxes are highlighted and let go, now we have a single staircase. Notice that whatever side I start on is going to be the low side. So if I click over here and drag it this way, that is the low side, this is the high side. So that you can do this any direction with the single staircases. Okay, if you're on stairs and say like you meant for them to point that way and you need to rotate it, you can click on the arrow right here and rotate it the direction that you want that to face. So if I click here and drag it over to this little box right here and let go, it'll now turn. Just be sure that you're not too high up on the ramp. If I rotate this and I'm too high on the ramp, I'll fall through it. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can edit, you can rotate them clockwise like this, or you can rotate them counterclockwise like this. And then of course you have the 180 edit. Again, keep in mind if I was to do a 180 edit and I am too far on the high side, I'll fall through it. Sometimes that is the technique that you're going for, right? So if somebody's on the opposite side of your ramp here, you can be like this and edit, and now you're right in their face. A little advanced, but something that you guys can look at. You can also do some little U-shape ramps. Interesting. You can also do corner ramps like that. You don't use those a whole lot, but it's just good to know. And then with our floors, you basically just have, you can do 1 corner, you can do half, you can do 3, turn it into a little thing like this. And you can also do the middle, which I don't ever know what that would be used for. So this is usually the edits that you're doing with the floor. All right, so we know most of the edits, how to use them, how to do them, how to build, but now we want to talk about how to start learning how to build and be effective with it. First and foremost, you have to practice. Okay, you have to come in here and practice. And before we get into any like in-game scenarios, we need to talk about combinations, because that's what a lot of building is. I think anybody here who's started playing has figured out how to pull out their ramp key and just, run up like this, Let me turn off my phone and just continue building a ramp. Okay, that's fine. That's not going to get you very far in a fight. This is more just for mobility. If you were going to go like up a mountain or something like that, and you needed to get height. Okay, so we need to start talking about combinations and getting used to using your new binds. And the best way to do that is start with 2 build options. Okay, we're going to be doing primarily turbo building. And if you guys don't know what the hell I'm talking about, if you go into your settings underneath the cogwheel here, you should have an option for turbo building. That should be on, okay, for the sake of this video. I don't know anybody who doesn't use it. But turbo building, what that means, if I pull out my ramp right now, that's not my ramp. If I pull up my ramp right now and I click and I hold down my left click, right? I'm holding down my mouse button and I just like move around, it'll just automatically keep building ramps, right? It's going to build ramps all over the place. Until I let go, it's just going to continue building. Now, without ever letting go of my my left click on my mouse, if I had just now switched to, say, my Z key, it'll automatically place a floor. I didn't have to lift my finger up to do that. Okay, so now anywhere I look, it's just going to build a floor. And if there's something above me that I can place it, it's going to build floors above me. Okay, if I switch it right now to my cone without ever letting go of my index finger, I'm never letting go of that left click option, it's just going to continue building. And this is going to be really important when we get into these combinations. All right, so the first combination that I like to teach is going to be floor cones. Okay, so floor in my case is going to be the Z button, and my cone is going to be my V button. This is a unique and it's kind of awkward combination. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by building 5 floors, never letting go of your mouse, never letting go of that click. Now you're just going to switch to cone. Build 5 cones. Now switch to your floor. Build 5 floors. It's okay if a cone goes up on top of the floor like that, but you're just getting used to switching. All right, once you were able to do 5 and 5, now do 4 floors and then do 4 cones. Okay, so now you're going to be switching more frequently. Now switch to 3 floors and then 3 cones. You guys see how this is getting quicker? We're switching faster. 2 floors, 2 cones, 1 floor, 1 cone, 1 floor, 1 cone, till you're doing floor cones like this. Floor cone, floor cone, floor cone, floor cone. You're getting much faster and you're getting used to hitting those buttons really quickly while holding down your right click option to do that. Okay, if you want to get a little bit more fancy with that, you could do like double floors, and you could just do double floor, double floor, double floor, and then go double cone, double cone, double cone. And notice that I don't have to move my mouse very far. I don't have to look way over here to do it. All right, if I have my mouse just on this side of the line, now granted these grids are not all over the map when we're playing, but you can feel it out when you're in game. If I just move it just this far, it places 2, okay? And you're going to see different ways that we utilize those in game. So you could do doubles. This might be getting a little advanced doing the doubles, but you see the idea is right here we have combined 2 different build structures, and we have slowly graduated from building 5 in a row to 4 in a row to 3 in a row to the point that we are building really quickly, switching between the floor and the cone, the floor and the cone, the floor and the cone, the floor and the cone. Okay? Once you've done that, then we want to switch to a different option. Okay, let's use our ramp and our wall. Okay, our ramp and our wall. This is a good one, and this one can get tricky because it depends on where you are on your ramp and where you're looking as to where that wall is going to go. Okay, so if we build a ramp and I build a wall looking right here, it's going to place it behind the ramp right there. But if I was to build a ramp and look up and I get to the top of this, if I'm at the top of this ramp, it's going to place it up here. Okay, which I would probably run into that, right? We don't want that to happen. So this one, you start to figure out where you need to be, and you can see that I'm kind of looking up with my ramp and then my wall to do that. Now, that's pretty quick, switching 1 and 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 1. What I would suggest, since you can't really do 3 ramps, 3 walls, 3 ramps, 3 walls, at least in this scenario, what I would suggest is building, 3 or 4 ramps and then try doing 1 wall, and then switching right back to 3 or 4 ramps and then mentally preparing for that one wall, and then do 3. And then sometimes that's going to happen, and this is where you need to be able to get quick with editing. Sometimes I accidentally trap myself. I know I can edit really fast, and this is where the edit courses that we'll talk about come in. So eventually you'll get to the point where you can do ramp, wall, without blocking yourself in, accidentally putting a wall in front of yourself like this. And also, if you do place a wall in front of you, you'll quickly learn how to edit through that. Okay, so that is another combination. And I would suggest going through all the different variations of the 2 combo builds. Okay, we could do ramp, and then do cone, cone. Ramp, cone. You guys get the idea. But you'll start learning where, depending on where I'm looking, that cone is going to go. Okay, is that cone going to go over my head, or is it going to go where I wanted it to go, over here? Okay, on top. So something that you guys are going to have to play with. And the cone can be a little tricky. It likes to place itself. In fact, wherever you're looking, it's like almost the opposite. So if you look up, it'll put it over there, but if you look down, it'll put it here. It's kind of confusing, but it's something that you guys can play with and do those 2 combination options. And you can even do it with floor, and then you can do a wall. And then usually when I'm teaching this, you're going to make a turn, right? Floor, wall, floor, wall. When you get to the floor wall combinations, this is where you can get into some in-game scenarios where you are placing you're doing 4 walls, just spinning around, and then placing a floor above you and below you. Now you're in a box. Okay, now you've effectively put yourself into a box, and usually in a defensive situation. And then we can edit out of that box. Now, how do I do that so fast? Notice the grid is out here. There's not going to be a grid in game, but if you were in the middle of one of these boxes and you just spin around, it'll put you in a perfect box. You might have tried this before and you got something like this, where you're like, hey, what the heck? I wanted to put this just, 4 walls. Or maybe you're in between 2 of these boxes standing on like this line and you try to do it and it doesn't do what you're asking for either. So what you're going to have to learn is the spacing, okay? Know how far you are and kind of in your mind determine where this box is in game when you're not on a grid like this. And when you're going to put yourself in a box, if the wall is that far away from you, you know that right now I can't just spin around and put myself in a single box. You'll have to learn the spacing, that when I'm this far away from it and I'm in the middle of the wall, I can just spin around and now I'm in a box. And if I want to do the floor, I could do something like that. Okay, so those are the 2 combos. Then we're going to get into the triple combos, which this gets a little bit more complex. Okay, you'll see this a lot. Probably the most common triple combo is going to be like your ramp, floor, wall rushes. You might have seen these people when this is coming at you. This is usually, time to run. You get nervous or whatever. This is a really good tactic to use in game, and it prevents people from shooting you out as easily if you're rushing or you're going up. This is a little bit more advanced if you're new to the building, but it's something that you guys can start striving for. And when you're doing this, when I first started doing this, I would always do, something like this, and I get pissed. I have to figure out, okay, I have to edit. You have to figure out where exactly on the ramp you need to be looking. If I'm looking down and I place this floor, it'll place it here. But if I'm accidentally looking more towards the top of the ramp, it'll put it above me. All right, and then I switch to that wall. And again, you guys have learned if you look up too far, place a wall. So this is more of a timing and positioning thing that you guys will learn. You'll notice when I do it, I kind of do this I look up for my ramp, and then I look down for my floor, and then as I'm coming up, I'm putting the wall, and then as soon as that wall goes, I immediately switch to the ramp again so I don't accidentally put another wall there. It doesn't work every time. I make mistakes. In fact, right now we can probably see if I do it long enough. Let's see if I go to doubles. I eventually will make a mistake, and this is where editing and getting comfortable with those edits, if I'm rushing somebody and this happens, I can immediately edit through, and I'm used to doing that. Okay, so that's a triple edit. Now, everything in building and editing in Fortnite, you're going to notice their patterns. Okay, if you watch people do high ground retakes or they're doing 90s and things like that, everything comes down to a pattern. And I would always suggest starting with one pattern, and then we build from there. Okay, probably the most common one that you'll see the more advanced technique after you've gone through all of these. And if you can't get through these guys, you need to start here and work on that until you're comfortable with that. And now you're starting to get a feel for where all your different binds are so that you can quickly switch among them. But let's talk about 90s, probably the most common one that you'll hear or you see people talk about. But a 90 is just a way to get up 3 levels really quick before jump fatigue kicks in. And what jump fatigue is, if you guys jump, you get 3 jumps, and now your jumps are going to start getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You can't just keep jumping the same height. Jump fatigue becomes an issue. So usually you'll see people do 90s, and they'll do 3, and then they'll either go up 1 to reset their jump fatigue so they don't jump immediately, or they'll do something like, it just takes a second, right? Jump, 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 and now I'm not jumping, jump, jump, jump. Now I'm not jumping, jump, jump, jump. All right. All that was just a bunch of patterns that I've practiced so many times that I just know the movement, okay? When I first started, I would trap myself underneath the stairs all the time. I'd accidentally put the floor over my head. I would fall to my death. You know, these are things that happen, but I'm probably not the best person to teach 90s. I have my way. This is how I learned it. But I'm going to just show you guys the basics of how to do a 90. There's so many things we can cover here. It might get a little complex. So basically, your standard 90 is going to include a ramp, floors of some sort, and then walls of some sort, a floor, and a ramp, okay? And there's a variety of different ways to do it. The way that I do it is I place a ramp, and then when I get onto that ramp, I place 4 walls, okay? A wall there, and it's just a circle with my mouse. Above, there, and down, okay? So I'm adding some support to this, and then I'm turning at the top of the ramp and jumping, and at the same time putting a floor and then a ramp, all right? It's like floor ramp. It's really quick. Then again, I'm doing wall, wall, wall. Now I'm just doing 3 because this one's still there. Floor, ramp with that jump, okay? Wall, 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 floor, ramp. And when I was first learning this, I was just doing it like this. Wall, 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 jump, floor, ramp. And sometimes I couldn't do the floor and the ramp at the same time. I'd do the floor and then the ramp. Wall, 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 floor, ramp. And then the longer I practiced, I would figure out how to do it while moving, okay? And all I'm doing is holding W. I'm moving forward this whole time. I never let go of W. And then I jump, and I'm turning myself 90 degrees. That's why they're called 90s, right? I'm turning 90 degrees. And I found that if you're looking down when you get to this part, you won't trap yourself so many times here. Whereas if I do it and I'm looking kind of up, it's easy to put a floor above your head accidentally. So the more you practice the patterns, the more they will become second nature, second hand. I've noticed once you figure out something like this in creative and you're starting to get able to do 90s in creative, it doesn't immediately translate over into a game. When pressure's on and you get into high tension situations, you tend to get tight and make mistakes. And that's fine. It's going to happen. Spend more time in creative, come back, practice it again. I like to warm up by doing 90s and things like that. And then there's a variety of different combinations that you can do from that. Some include put yourself in a box. You have combinations like tunneling. Okay, this is again a more advanced. You don't see it a lot in public games, but it's a good thing to know. Is if I edit my wall and put a floor and then 3 walls, now I'm still defended, and I can do this. It's a pattern. I look down, I look up, I look to my left, place 3 walls, and then I edit. And it's just a pattern that the more you do it, the faster you can get at it. And obviously I'm not doing a very good job, so I'd have to slow down. I'm still not doing it. There we go. Slow down, practice, and then over time, when you've practiced it a lot, these patterns become faster. Okay? What are some other ones? Just some good basic in-game edits and builds that you want to get in the habit of doing, especially when you get into late game. I find that having a cone or something in your box with you is useful. So if you box up having all of the floors and walls being yours is good because nobody can just edit in on you. But I always like to have something in the box with me, a cone or a ramp. Cone for me seems to be more versatile because I can quickly edit it up into a ramp, or I can put it like this and I can look through different angles. And then I'll also like to put a cone above my head. Okay, so I have my floor and my cone. This just prevents somebody above me just spraying down. And if they do start spraying me, I can just continue to spam build that cone, and none of the bullets are getting through because I have that second layer of defense in my floor. I hope that makes sense. You can also use it to take some cover and take shots at people. I don't have a gun right now, but you can shoot through your window, something like this, without exposing yourself as much as if this cone wasn't in here and I just had this. A lot more of my body is exposed when I'm taking shots at people, where with the cone, you can kind of crouch and peek and shoot through that, and then reset it and edit and things like that. So that's probably a tip more so than a how to edit, but it's good to have those cones there. A few other ones that are useful. If you're up higher than 3 levels, when you're falling, it's good to put a ramp below you. You won't take fall damage. But let's say you're up 5 levels. This one's a little bit advanced, but I'm just going to go over it because there might be people that are more advanced. If I have my wall out, and as I'm falling, what I'm going to do, it's hard to explain and do at the same time. Right when I'm going to basically be spam building my wall as I'm falling. And as soon as it places the wall on the ground, I'm immediately going to switch to my floor, and it's actually going to catch me above. See that? So it actually put 2 walls down, and I caught it way up here. So if I go up, like, let's say I go 6 levels, and I don't have fall damage turned on right now, so it's kind of hard to explain. But if I'm falling, I have my ramp, my wall out. It built 2 walls and then a floor. It caught me up there. It didn't build off of anything. So this is a little advanced technique, but if you ever find yourself getting knocked down from very far or very high, and if I'm up 5 levels, I'm probably gonna die when I fall. Okay, whereas if you just learn to, I didn't do it there because I was in the wrong place it above me, but you guys get the idea. It's very useful to learn things like this. There's so many YouTube videos. Let me try this again. So that time it got me up 1 level. Sometimes I can get on that 2nd level, but it's a useful tip to go over. But yeah, there's so many different videos out there on like high ground retakes and things like that. What I did when I was learning is I would start with learning 90s, and then from this I started doing things like learning, put a cone above me and then a floor underneath me, and then do like scissor ramps out. Okay, this was something that I was able to turn into my basic high ground retake. Okay, over time, there's a bunch of other ones that you could get into, but you just keep adding to it, and eventually you have these where you're not even thinking about them. They're just happening in game, and to the point where, and I'm probably going to screw it up here, but this is kind of like some of the stuff that I'm doing now, where I'm doing the scissor out. This is called a booga jump, where you jump and you catch yourself on a wall and then do a 3-foot cone and then scissor ramp out, and then now you have high ground retake again. So what I just did, in a nutshell, if I was an enemy, just defending yourself or covering yourself the whole time while you're doing high ground retakes. And this is not something that you're going to learn in one day. I'm still struggling with it, but it's just by going on YouTube, watching a bunch of different high ground retake videos and finding out which ones you like and coming in and practicing them until it just becomes a pattern that you've done so many times that you can do it really quickly in game. Okay, so I hope that helps. I'm going to make share a second video that I've already created using the edit course. It's called the Get Good Edit course. This is something that is just a good place to practice a lot of these builds and edits, and I hope that is helpful for you guys. I hope if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the sections below or reach out to me in game. But yeah, I know I covered a lot there, from very, very basic to very, very advanced and everything in between. But there's just so many uses. Some other ones, like if I'm in an in-game scenario, and I could probably even go back to some footage, but if I'm getting shot at, my initial reaction is just put up a wall, but I also like to put up a ramp. Now I have 2 layers of defense. If someone's spamming this, right now I can just spam hold or turbo build that wall, and then once they run out of ammo, I can immediately peek over my ramp here and start shooting back at them, right? Whereas if I just did the wall and they're shooting at me and I'm spam building this wall, turbo building this wall, some of those bullets are going to get through, right? So I always try to get 2 layers in front of me. That's a useful tip. If you're building up, whether you're doing floor ramps or whatever, when I get to the top and I'm shooting at somebody, if there's potentially people around me, it's good to put walls on all sides of you. And in fact, if you know there's people over there, say they're fighting in this structure, put another wall one higher, you know, so that you can shoot down at these people and not worry about taking fire from this direction. Keep in mind when you do this, it is an easy like backboard basket, throw hand grenades. So there's just so many different scenarios that we could talk about. But let's start with just the basics. Get back to me if you have any questions, like I said, and we can get into some more advanced stuff, maybe make some shorter videos going over that in the future. So I hope you did like this. Enjoy it. Again, don't forget to leave a like on it, subscribe, things like that. Do all of the things, and I hope you enjoy. Talk to you later.